Hello and welcome. Let's get you caught up on some of the biggest global stories right now.
All right, here's what we're looking at today. We'll touch on some rising geopolitical tensions, then jump over to a government shutdown in Washington. After that, a really big change in climate policy, some exciting news from science and space, and we'll wrap up with a look at sports and entertainment.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Our first story is all about a world on edge, as leaders are gathering for some major summits this weekend, and, well, the tension is pretty clear. At the African Union Summit, the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said this: "This is 2026, not 1946. It's such a simple but powerful line, right? He's basically saying the world's power structures are stuck in the past and desperately need an update for today's reality. And he wasn't just talking in generalities. Guterres got very specific, calling for a permanent seat for an African nation on the UN Security Council, calling the current setup indefensible. Meanwhile, at the Munich Security Conference, reports are showing some real friction between the US and its European allies on big issues like migration and foreign policy.
All right, let's shift gears and head over to the United States, because there's a major story developing in Washington. A funding impasse has actually shut down parts of the government.
So you might be asking, how did this happen? Well, it all comes down to a stalemate over funding for the Department of Homeland Security. They couldn't reach a deal, and so at midnight on February 14th, the funding just ran out. And with Congress now taking a break, it doesn't look like there's a quick fix on the horizon.
And we're not talking about a day or two. The current estimate is that this partial shutdown is going to last for at least 10 days.
Yeah, and it's really crucial to get this point. This isn't a full government shutdown, it's very targeted. The stalemate is all about funding and reforms for ICE and Customs and Border Protection, agencies right at the center of the whole debate on immigration policy.
Okay, staying in the US, but moving on to another huge topic, the climate question. There has been a major, and I mean major, policy shift.
So, to really grasp what's happening, we need to talk about something called the endangerment finding. Back in 2009, the EPA basically put out this official scientific conclusion that greenhouse gases are a threat to public health. This finding became the legal backbone for pretty much all U.S. climate regulations ever since.
Well, on February 13th, that all changed. The administration has now officially repealed that endangerment finding. This is a huge deal because it essentially pulls the rug out from under the main legal justification for regulating greenhouse gas emissions in the United States.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum, of course. The global climate picture is, well, it's complicated. The World Meteorological Organization just announced that this past January was the 5th warmest on record. At the same time, though, a different analysis shows that China's CO2 emissions have actually been flat or even falling for 21 months straight. So you've got these different trends all happening at once.
Hey, just a quick pause here. If you're finding this news summary useful, it would be a massive help if you could take a second to like this and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep these updates coming. Thanks.
All right, let's move on from policy and politics to progress. We've got some really cool developments in science and technology to talk about. First up, space. Despite launching on Friday the 13th, NASA and SpaceX's Crew-12 mission is going off without a hitch. Someone even called it a very lucky day. The 4 astronauts are now on their way to the International Space Station and are expected to dock on Saturday to begin their mission. And back here on Earth, the U.S. Department of Energy just announced something called the Genesis mission. Now, this sounds pretty grand, and it is. It's not just one project, it's a list of 26 big challenges they're putting out there, all designed to supercharge innovation using AI across fields like energy, science, and even national security. And this last one is absolutely fascinating. There's a new global initiative launching that wants to map the human exposome. What's that? Well, for a long time, we've focused on our genes to understand disease. This project wants to look at everything else, all the environmental exposures we face throughout our entire lives, to see how that impacts our health. This could be a real game changer.
Okay, and to wrap things up, let's take a look at what's happening in the world of sports and entertainment.
At the movies, it looks like the new Wuthering Heights is the big winner for the holiday weekend. It's on track for a really strong opening, projected to bring in over $47 million.
Over in the world of cricket, at the T20 World Cup, South Africa has moved on after a big win against New Zealand. But let's be honest, the match everyone is waiting for is the classic rivalry, India versus Pakistan. That's all going down on Sunday.
And that's the latest. This has been your news summary. We'll have another update for you in 24 hours.